Hi and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to be talking about HLH and how it affected me back in 2018. Now for those that don't know, HLH stands for Hemophagocytic lymphohistiocytosis. I know that's not the right pronunciation, but if you look for HLH online, you'll be able to see how to pronounce it properly. Now, HLH is a severe systemic inflammatory syndrome that can be fatal. It's a blood cancer, in other words. Now, in 2018, all of a sudden, I was out with my friend. He was getting married, and I was his best man. So we went suit shopping in Westfield, and I started to get this pain in my ribs. Now, at the time, obviously, I didn't think anything of it. But as the day went on, it started to get worse. Now, I went to Burger King, I had a meal, then I made my way home. When I got home, the pain was very severe. So I put a hot water bottle where the pain was. I had a hot drink. I thought this might help, but it didn't. Overnight, I was in agonizing pain. Couldn't really sleep too much. And I was gonna go to hospital, but I didn't really want to go. So I said, let me see how it goes the next day. But during the day, obviously it got worse. So my mum called my granddad and he came and collected me, took me down to Ealing Hospital to A&E, where I had to wait. Obviously, you know A&E, it's a long wait. I had to wait a few hours to get seen. Obviously they'd done some tests and they thought I had an inflamed rib. Now I thought, okay, that's not too serious. They might give me a little medication or some tablets to take and hopefully I'll be on my way. So obviously gone home now. My fiance is with me, but overnight the pain just got worse. I wasn't able to even lie down in my bed. I was getting up, walking around, lying on the floor, crying in pain. But the pain was still so bad. So the next day, me and my fiance went down to the hospital. Obviously talk to them and tell them that this pain is getting worse. Like I'm in so much pain. I even threw up in the toilet. Because I wasn't able to eat. My appetite was gone, so I wasn't able to eat anything. But the pain was still there. So after this, obviously the Ealing said they couldn't do anything for me. So I went to my grand's, and I was going to stay there because my fiance had to go back to work the next day. So I went and stayed at my grand's. But while I was at my grand's, the pain was still very bad. So my mum, my aunt took me down to the urgent care unit at Hammersmith Hospital, because Hammersmith is my normal hospital for my kidney issues. It makes sense for me to go there because they know my history and everything. So I went there. They done some small tests on me, like blood pressure and a blood sample, I guess just to see if they could see anything. But they weren't able to see anything either. So I told them where the pain was. And then obviously I had to stay in hospital. I was in hospital for about 2 months, from like the beginning of March 2018 to about May, the bank holiday in May. Just before then, I was in hospital because they thought it was my kidneys at one point. So they put 2 drains on either side of where I had my kidney transplant to try and drain fluid from both my kidney that was functioning and one of my kidneys that were not functioning anymore. They thought maybe that was the problem, but that wasn't the issue because I was still getting the pain after that. I had all these sort of scans. I had I had ultrasounds, chest x-ray. Every other day I was having these different tests, but they were not seeing anything from the results. Now, there was a time that I was sitting on the commode on one of the wards. I was with my mum, my fiance, and my gran. My mum had just gone out of the room, and I was sitting on the commode going to the toilet. Now, next minute, I wake up, and I see about 10 nurses and doctors around me. Like before, there was just 2 of you. So I'm thinking, what's happened? And then I've been told that I've had a blackout. And for my gran and my fiance, they said they were screaming out because they've never seen nothing like that before. And my fiance is gonna give her point of view and obviously how she was feeling when all this happened. So after having this blackout and stuff, I was still in hospital doing these tests, getting frustrated because I want to know what's happening with me. They don't know what's going on. They're not able to tell me, so I'm getting frustrated. I'm depressed, just sitting in the hospital bed day after day. So it took its toll on me, I'm not gonna lie. And then when I did come out, I came out before, just before the bank holiday in May. And one day my aunt tried to get me out of the house. So me, her, my fiance, her partner, and my little cousin went down to a park and had a picnic. But obviously I wasn't really feeling 100% still. I was like lying down, falling asleep. And obviously as I was walking back to the car, my legs were giving way a bit. So I got back to my gran's. Wasn't able to eat any dinner. And then when I went back to bed, I just kept sleeping. All I wanted to do is sleep. And then when I woke up, I was just sweating buckets. So obviously I knew something was wrong. And then the day after I went to the park, my granddad was taking me for my normal kidney appointment. And as I got into the hospital, my eyes started going all blurry, and my legs started giving way. So instead of going to my kidney appointment, I had to go back to the urgent care unit where obviously I had to find out what's going on, because there's something going on. It's not an inflamed rib. There's more to it, and I can't keep going through this pain because it's too much. I can't do it anymore. So I'm trying. Obviously, I want to find out answers. Got into the urgent care unit. They've obviously put me back take me back to a ward, and then this is where things started to get worse. Now I was on a ward, on a high dependency ward, and my breathing was getting bad. So my breathing was getting bad, very bad. So I eventually got moved to the intensive care ward where all the other people were on the ward with me, and I was there for about a week and a bit because my breathing was not getting any better. And then before I know it, I don't even remember this, but then I got taken to my own room in the intensive care ward. And for 2 weeks, my family told me I wasn't talking. I was responsive. I was conscious, but I was not responsive. So they were trying to talk to me. I was just nodding my head. I wasn't talking. I was doing things out of character. Like I was trying to spit at nurses, calling the police on my phone. I was just doing a lot of stuff out of character, things that I wouldn't do. And obviously I ended up reading the intensive care handbook. And it tells you and the things that I was doing, that's what people tend to do when they're in intensive care. I kept seeing a clock that kept telling me, I kept looking at it and it kept saying 7 o'clock. So my mind was going mad, like going mad in there. And I was in there for about 2.5 weeks. And then eventually there was one day my mum and my fiance, they're getting ready to leave. And I said to them, is this real? Like, what's going on? Is all this real? And that's when I think I eventually started to come round and I started to realize what was happening. And obviously I was in there for maybe a few more days or about a week while they monitored me. And then after I was all good, I got moved back to the high dependency ward. I had my own room. But because I'd been in intensive care for so long, I lost all the muscle and function in my legs. So I tried to stand up and my legs just buckled and gave way. I started crying. I thought I'm never going to be able to walk again. That just knocked me for 6. I never had no problems walking before. So it just shattered me. So after that, the next day I got physio. I started to have physio. They come to see me. First thing I did was get out of my bed and move to a chair nearby. Then I started walking around, and eventually as time went on, my walking started to get better. Now, then I moved out of my own my own room and I had to go back on the general ward with all the other patients. But obviously I was having blood tests and stuff, and they could still see my blood markers, like my markers were high. So this is when I then found out that I had something called HLH, which obviously I had never heard about before. So I was very scared because I heard it was to do with your blood, kind of cancer. So obviously that's scary in itself. So I ended up having something called etoposide, which is a type of chemotherapy. I had about four cycles of etoposide, because they were thinking this this etoposide would help the HLH, and hopefully I'll start to feel better again. But it still wasn't helping. So they couldn't find what was driving on the HLH. So one day a doctor came around, and it was very random. Like, he just asked to see under my armpit. Like, everyone has lymph nodes like all around the body, especially like under your armpits. That's like one of the main places you can get it. So he put his hand there, and he could feel like a small kind of, not a lump, but like a small bump kind of thing. And obviously they wanted to test to see if it was lymphoma. So I had to end up having bone marrow. Now, bone marrow is a spongy tissue inside some of the bones in your body, including the hip and thigh bones. Bone marrow contains immature cells called stem cells. So I had the bone marrow, had it about 3 times in my back, where they had to go in with a needle and take out some of the marrow from my back, so they could test it and see if I had lymphoma or not. So after took a couple samples, because they couldn't get it with the first one or the second one, so the third time came back and I had lymphoma. Now we knew that it was lymphoma that was driving on the HLH, and the doctors had their discussions, and they decided that I would need something called rituximab. Now, I had rituximab back in 2009, and it helped cure my joint pains. So I was quite hopeful that this would help with the HLH. So I had the first time I had rituximab, I had to stay in the hospital overnight and have it done, so they could monitor me, see if I agreed with it, if it agreed with me or not. And it did, thankfully. And after this, I was able to come into the hospital to have it once a week. So I sit on a chair. It's like you're having chemotherapy. I sit in a kind of chair, and they put the needle in your arm, and you're hooked up to a machine, and it's going into your veins. So I had 8 cycles of that, and after going back for my appointment, after going back for my checkup, everything was well, and the lymphoma had gone. It was cleared. I was good, so I was in remission. It was a hard journey. It was a hard 6-7 months, because I didn't come out of hospital till about September 18. So it was a difficult time for me and my family, but I managed to make it through. Obviously, my walking started to improve again after having physio for a few months every day, walking around. My walking started to improve gradually. So yeah, tough time, but I bounced back from it. If you have any questions, ask, put in the comments, and in my next video, I'll answer any questions. Thank you for watching. Bye.
Hi everyone. So my experience of Kai in hospital in 2018 was that I remember we was on the general ward, and he was on the commode about to go to the toilet, and I was standing there talking to him, and all of a sudden he just went funny, like his eyes just went, and he just collapsed. And I just remember running out screaming for help, like, somebody please help, he's collapsed. I was crying, I was literally screaming down the whole ward, and I just fell to the floor, because like I've never seen anyone collapse before. And I remember Kai's nan and a nurse came and helped me up off the floor and took me to the the family waiting room, and just sat with me and like helped me calm down, helped me catch my breath, gave me some water, and said like, he's going to be okay, like, you know, we're not sure what happened, but, you know, he's going to be fine. And then like loads of doctors and nurses went in to attend to Kai, and then after like some time they came to the family room where I was and said, like, he's okay now, like, you can go back and see him. And literally he was just like, it was like nothing had happened to him. So that was a bit of a shock. And then as time went on in 2018, things with Kai continued to get worse. Every day I'd be at the hospital, and he would be, well, in the intensive care unit, and we'd go in the side room where he was, and we'd have to put a gown on and stuff, and there would be like a nurse in the room with him, or a few nurses in the room, and he was awake but he wasn't talking. He was literally just looking at you, and his only way of communicating was either nodding or shaking his head or using his eyes. And then I remember there was one day, I'm not sure if Kai has mentioned this already, but there was one like day, and I was getting ready to leave after being at the hospital for most of the day, and it was me and Kai's mum there, and I had my jacket on, my handbag ready to go, and Kai was like, is this real? And I swear to God, I've never stopped taking off my coat so fast in my life. And I turned around and I was like, oh my God, like, he's literally just spoke, because I thought he's never going to be able to speak again. And I was like, what? Like, you're talking? Like, it was mad. And we was talking to him, like, trying to explain, like, you know, you're going to be fine, everything's going to be okay. So yeah, that was it was a difficult time in 2018. It just felt like, I don't know, like we just wasn't getting any answers. Things were just being dragged out. It could be this, it could be that, or we're not sure, we're going to do this test, we're going to try this test, we're going to give you this medication and see if it works for this. And it was just dragged on for way too long. But yeah, that's my short story of 2018. I could sit here and go on for hours, but I'm not going to. But thank you anyway, and speak soon. Bye.